The American Musical Theater, an informal workshop and a series of television biographies of people whose personal contribution to the musical theater has made it a native American art. With Jay Blackton and the CBS Orchestra, with guests Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon, with students from the New York City high schools. The host for the workshop, Earl Wrightson.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We have such wonderful, wonderful guests for you today that we simply had to have the very, very best in theatrical conductors. We couldn't have done better than Jay Blackton.
Thank you.
Workshop. And I'm going to tell you why we couldn't have done better. 2 Academy Award nominations, 1 Oscar for Oklahoma, right?
That's right.
Conducted Oklahoma on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
How many other shows, Mr. Blackton?
Oh, gosh, close to 20, I guess, Earl.
And I know a great many
stopped counting.
big hits in those 20.
have.
And also here on CBS.
Yes, I've done a few television shows, television specs, as you call them. Good years, the Gershwin years.
One with Mary
Something
Martin.
with Miss Martin, with Miss Merman.
That was something.
Little something.
And
Enjoyed.
a couple of years, and your next show, I know, is going to be the one with Irving
I'm looking
Berlin.
forward to it. It's the Irving Berlin show
Called
Mr. President.
And a couple of years back, you conducted Redhead.
That's right.
And thereby, workshop, excuse me, Mr. Blackton, hangs a tale. For our guests today are the 2 outstanding reasons for the importance of the dance in today's American musical theater. One is a top choreographer, director, currently responsible for the musical staging of that long-titled hit, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. The other is Broadway's most delightful, most dynamic singing, dancing, acting star. Together they have created some of the most memorable moments in the American musical theater. It's my very great privilege to present to you Mr. Bob Fosse and Miss Gwen Verdon. Well, you see, you're a hit every place you go, even without doing anything.
We should stop here, I think.
You 2 have, outside of all this wonderful work that you do together, a great deal in common in your backgrounds. You both came from theatrical families, didn't you?
Yes.
See, they even speak in tandem. You were born in Culver City.
I was born in Culver City, California. My father is an electrician, which doesn't sound terribly theatrical, but he worked in a movie studio. And he did all the lighting. And my mother was a dancer. She worked with Ruth St. Denis and did a kind of pseudo-oriental, and she taught dancing and tap dancing.
One of her pupils was you, huh?
Yes.
Tell Earl your billing when you were young.
What was your billing?
Your tap dancing
Oh,
billing.
the fastest tap dancer in the world.
At age 6, wasn't it?
Yes, but everybody called themselves that because you had to be fast to be good. You could really be terrible, but if you were fast, that was all
Do
they
you think
wanted.
maybe you were the fastest?
I
No,
don't
the
know.
second. You see, I was the...
Yes. Same era, so he was the fastest.
You went on to work in supper clubs and so forth, didn't you?
Yes, I toured with Jack Cole. I was part of his group, and we worked nightclubs and hotel supper club rooms.
And I know that, and we'll get to it later, that you have, of course, appeared in the movies, but you coached in those days a great many movie stars.
Well,
didn't
when
you?
I was assistant to Jack Cole, it was my job to teach the stars how to do the numbers that they were supposed to do in the movies. Jack Cole would invent them, and I would teach them. So I had to teach people like Marilyn Monroe and Jane Russell and Mitzi Gaynor.
You couldn't get that job. She had to do it, huh?
It's not a bad job, is it?
Well, you came from a theatrical family, too.
Yes. My father was in vaudeville, kind of third-rate vaudeville, but he was in it. And I guess I started dancing when I was about 9 years old. They kind of pushed me off
An
to
old
dancing
man,
school. Yes. I did. They thought it was better not to start too young.
There was something I read, and I don't quite understand it, so maybe you better explain to us. When you were a kid, you worked in, it said fixed amateur shows. What was that?
Yes. Is it all right to tell them?
Yeah, I think it's all right. It's far enough back.
Well, when I was first starting, occasionally I'd get a real professional job, which meant I got paid $2 to do 4 shows or something. But there were other engagements that were amateur shows, and they were put on at the local movie theater on a Tuesday night in conjunction with bingo or dishes or something.
Yeah.
And they had the local talent, usually a whistler and an Irish tenor or something. But then they had to call in a few professional or almost professional acts. And we used to play this circuit of amateur nights, Tuesday in one theater, Wednesday. And the booker would call you up and he'd say, all right, on Tuesday you win second prize at the Belmont. And on Thursday I'll give you third prize, you see, at the Adelphi.
That's wonderful. Gee, I hate to get away from that, but
I'm glad I got away from that.
No, but it's so interesting. I'd like to know more about it. You went into the Navy then for some time, didn't you?
Yes. Not very long. I was only in about a year and a half.
That's long enough, probably.
Yes.
And you came out, oddly enough, into Call Me Mister, wasn't it?
Yes, and I was in the national company of Call Me Mister and toured for about another year.
I see. And did you play on that in New York?
No, just on tour with it.
When was your first New York appearance, Miss Verdon?
Oh, I think it was 1948. It was the first time I had ever come to New York. I'd never even seen it before. I'd heard about it, but I hadn't seen it. But I came to New York, and we opened out of town with a show, and the notice went up between the first and second acts, opening night out of town. That was my first show.
First act was so bad.
And then I did another one that played 5 weeks on Broadway, a review, a variety-type show. But then the first part that I ever had in a show, and the first successful show, was Can-Can, which was 1953.
I remember. On opening night, Miss Verdon had an ovation. You sit and count 7 minutes. 7 whole minutes it lasted. And that's quite an ovation, is it not? And you have a question for me.
Mr. Fosse, why would an outstanding dancer like yourself want to become a choreographer?
Because maybe I was a flop as a dancer.
We're not.
No, I think it's a natural progression. I think it just happened. I don't know.
Well, the dance... No, go ahead, finish it.
No, I had nothing important to add to that.
Oh, I see. All right, but the dance director used to be sort of the low man in the theatrical totem pole. That's all reversed now. How did that come about?
Well, I hate to mention my colleagues' names, but I suppose I have to say Agnes DeMille and George Balanchine started it, started telling story with dance, and therefore became more important to the musical, and then a certain progression that the choreographers become directors and so forth.
I see. Yes, dear.
Mr. Fosse, when you begin working on a show, how do you decide what dances to include?
Well, I think because Gwen is going to do something for me, I think rather than try and discuss it and sound pretentious or muddle it all up, we thought of a little thing to do, a demonstration, which would be that Gwen would sing a song from Damn Yankees, whatever Lola wants, and she would do it the way I get it, unstaged, and then we would show you in another version how it is staged. And this is the way she shows up, knowing the lyrics at least,
And that's all.
and sings for me the first time.
Whatever Lola wants, Lola gets. And little man, little Lola wants you. Make up your mind to have no regrets. Recline yourself, resign yourself, you're through.
Now, we'll just go over here just a second. Now, this you would have to imagine is the locker room of the Washington Senators. I think most of you are familiar with the plot of Damn Yankees. Gwen is the devil's helper, Lola, and I'm going to try and help out and be Joe Hardy, the phenomenal baseball player. Joe Hardy wants to go home, and Lola doesn't want to let him get home.
Yes, I would like to add, I do some what might look like very strange gestures. Actually, I'm taking gloves off. And when I go like this...
Well, they know what that is.
Okay. So here we go.
All right.
You be good boy and do like Lola tells you to do. Whatever Lola wants, Lola gets. And little man, and little Lola wants you. Make up your mind to have no regrets. Recline yourself, resign yourself, you're through. I always get what I aim for, and your heart and soul is what I came for. Whatever Lola wants, Lola gets. No use to fight, don't you know you can't win. You're no exception to the rule. I'm irresistible, you fool. Give in. Give in. Give in. Hello, Joe. It's me. He hit so far. Hold on. That's you. Uh-huh. Boop-boopy-doo. Oh. That's a staged vocal.
I want you to know that we come prepared with towels for the dance. You don't get yours yet because
All right,
you haven't
okay.
worked hard enough
I
yet.
forgot to mention that that song is by Richard Adler and Jerry Ross, a very fine song.
Yes, of course, from damn Yankees, right?
Yes.
Yes, we have.
Oh, Mr. Fosse, how do you actually go about creating a dance?
I see. Well, that's a very difficult thing to answer, and I'm not sure that I could give you a very good answer. I lock myself up in a room and just let everything that can come out, even though it may seem ridiculous and as though I'll never use it. I kind of spill out. I don't know how to say it any differently, and then I try to edit it.
Well, whatever comes out like such fun. Gee, do you enjoy it as much as you seem to? As you're dancing upstage, I can see from the side, you can't. And she's just as happy turned away from the audience as she is any other way. This is...
I like doing it. It's like a game. I know that everybody goes and plays football and baseball and ping pong and tennis. And I dance, and it's
I
just
read where
as much
you
fun.
were very influenced by the baggy pants clowns and whatnot. Is it
Yes, the Picasso clowns and the baggy pants comedians and all those
one
sweet,
of the critics
funny little
likened you to a
characters.
Picasso clown.
Well, I tried hard enough to look like one. I'm delighted.
She loves that.
I know that Mr. Fosse was influenced by some other great clowns, was he not?
You're speaking of Mr.
Chaplin?
Chaplin, yes.
Oh, well, right here, I'm going to go that away
Oh.
and change my clothes.
All right.
All right,
Excuse me.
fine. Move over, Bob, and we'll talk about your influence from Chaplin.
I think he's been the greatest influence on my work, which really means I guess I've stolen from him. I don't know. But he has influenced me tremendously.
But you have a very definite feeling about the entertainment element in dancing, haven't you?
Yes, I don't want to get too serious, but I think there's a grave error in some dancing, and that is that they take it too seriously. They try to do too much soul searching with it, and it's not that I'm against it, I just think there's too much of it. I think in certain places it's fine, but I think of dancing as sheer joy, as exhilaration, as running, as jumping, as athletic, like a trapeze artist, you know, and I think that's all that, not all, but that's a very important part of it.
Well, today in our integrated musicals, the songs are usually always written to further the plot or develop character. Would you say that most of your dances follow that formula?
I try to. They don't always know, but I make an effort to either tell a story or give the character of the person. The thing that Gwen ran over to change clothes for is a variation from a much larger group dance from New Girl in Town. And New Girl in Town was the musical version of Anna Christie by O'Neill. And I think you're all familiar with the character of Anna Christie. She's a classic character. She had a rather shady past and became very bitter and pessimistic about life. And through a series of events, change of atmosphere where people don't know about her past, her life changes and her hopes change. She begins feeling optimistic, full of hope. And this dance tried to express this new life for her. It's called a pony dance, and you may notice some movement of a young horse, the way they throw their head and the way they prance in that prideful, noble way. And here it is. So it's at the end of it, I have to tell you, I'll join in and try and look like 20 dancers for you.
Hey, that's no mean feat. You'll need the towel.
I'll try. Yeah, after this. The pony dance.
Mr. Fosse, I know you...
I stepped in at the last minute and made a few very grave errors.
Last year you did the revival of Pal Joy at the city center. Now that's another question of character delineation in dancing,
yes.
isn't it?
Again, it's a dance of character, but it's a quite different character. I think most of us are familiar with the character of Pal Joey. I hope he's likable.
Yes, he's vain. He's likable, but he's vain. He's self-centered.
Likeable heel, huh?
And he postures and poses.
Yes. Well, this
and
dance
preens.
was meant to bring out that part of his personality. I have to, I'm sorry, get this on too. As you can see, I'm a prop dancer. Without my props, I couldn't do these. Gwen has a nickname for this dance, which I'll tell you if I can light a cigar, too.
I'll tell him.
All right, you tell him.
I call it the narcissistic tango.
If I can hold up, here we go with Pal Joey's narcissistic tango.
Now you can have
Ah, the old boy. What he used to be.
Can you talk? Because I want to ask you a question.
I'll try. Make it a long question.
All right. Well, the business of the choreographer being the director is a fairly recent thing. Is there any particular reason or how this came about?
I think it happened, as I said before, about Mr. Mill and Mr. Balanchine and several other people kind of laid the groundwork, and the rest of us have, in some way, tried to follow those patterns.
Is it a big asset for the choreographer to be the director, or vice versa?
I think so.
Is it a big help to you?
In some cases.
Well, yes, but I as a dancer, I think of myself as being primarily a dancer. For the director to also be a choreographer, you never have the feeling that you're bound in a scene, because they're very conscious of the overall look and the movement look and the visual look of a show, and they have no fear of having you move around while you're speaking.
Well, of course, now you're speaking as a dancer. It occurs to me, as an old-time ham, the business of don't move on a line, you don't move when I'm talking or something. And sometimes it seems to be distracting. I imagine it has to do with the directing, but is that necessarily true? Is it possible to move on lines or move when someone else is speaking?
Well, you're going to get me in such trouble. That's
Why?
I don't know, but there are several schools of thought concerning it, and they're all right. I just feel that I have never found, if a thing is truly funny, and the business or the movement is done properly to the correct degree, is inventive and suits the line to the action, that it would ever hurt a laugh or spoil the prose in any way.
Yes.
What is the difference between choreography and musical staging? And what's the difference between musical staging and directing?
Did you get your breath?
You know what they call that? Opening up a can of beans.
Well, now that the can of beans is open, I don't know, if I were to give a very strict definition of it, the choreographer does anything to do with dancing. Musical staging has to do with the movement, action, thought of the song, while the person, group, trios, whatever, they're in charge of that. Now, of course, each show is different, and sometimes there is a choreographer, there is a musical stager, and there is a director. In some cases, one man does the whole thing, and in some cases, it usually, I can tell you this, frequently overlaps. So it's no clean-cut definition that I can give you. Is that clear, or did I just muddle it further? Right?
Maybe we have another one here to clear it up, yeah.
Well, every musical seems to have one big dance number. How do you decide what that dance number is to be?
When they applaud the loudest, that's the big dance number. I don't know. I just keep looking for them, hoping one will be the big one.
Mr. Fosse, in your capacity as choreographer, director, are there any special joys in working with Miss Verdon?
Well, I don't think she should be here when I talk about her.
Here I go again.
And with a purpose,
Change.
too, may I add. Change.
Yes, of course, there's been so many things written and said about Gwen that it's difficult for me to add much more. It's an extraordinary talent to work with. The thing that impresses me most about her is her enthusiasm, her desire for perfection, and endless energy. And whenever I have an idea, I'll kind of fumble my way up to it with an or I think we should, she'll say, oh, I know exactly what you mean. And she's off to the races. I think that's enough, because she can hear us, you know. I mean, there's no use in pretending that she can.
Want to set up this thing that...
Oh, yes.
Trying to do now?
In trying to arrange... Would you mind if I slip this off, because...
Not at all. Why, did you hurt?
A little bit.
Go on.
In trying to arrange different kinds of dances and all of that, they're very expensive. Don't go too far. That's all my money are in my shoes. In trying to arrange different dances, various kinds, this one would it would epitomize the pantomime type of dance, and it's from Redhead, which was written by Dorothy Fields and Albert Haig and David Shaw. And in it, Gwen plays the part of Essie Wimple. Essie Wimple is a 29-year-old unmarried woman and considered to be an old maid at that time, and maybe still is, I don't know. But she is a girl who lives in a dream world. She has visions, and she's sure that her Prince Charming will come along one day. Well, Mr. Kiley does come along, and that suits her just fine. They play a short scene just prior to this where she bandages his hand, and he leaves his glove on a table in her workshop, and leaves. He's an American, by the way. And I'm certainly following up this story for you.
No, you're not.
And on his exit, he gives Essie a very friendly little pat on the rear. Being a typical American, that's the only way I knew how to stage it. So, anyway, Gwen has misinterpreted everything he said in the scene, and she believes that this is her man. And she's always been considered a slightly unattractive girl, but now she doesn't feel this way any longer. It's called Merely Marvelous, Dorothy Fields and Albert Haig.
I feel merely marvelous, wilder than the sea. I look nearly beautiful. I don't look like me. It's a blooming miracle what a smack can do. I could fly, I could soar, I could cry, I could roar, make him feel merely marvelous too.
I think changing in dancing must be almost as hard as dancing
they work,
itself.
As hard in the wings as they do on stage.
Yes, dear.
Mr. Fosse, do you always choreograph a dance with a particular dancer in mind? Or?
No, I don't, but it's helpful because each dancer, although they're trained similarly, has individual characteristics and traits, and it's very helpful to know what they are.
Yes, we had some other... Do we have another question in there? Somebody had a question. Come on. Did you? I thought I saw some hands there earlier shooting up. What makes Bob Fosse so distinctly Bob Fosse? This is maybe an embarrassing thing to ask you, but
no, it's
could
easy.
Is
poverty.
Let me ask you. Come on, give me a more serious answer than that.
Well, I don't know. Do any of us know what makes us what we are? I guess I'm a combination of everything and everybody I've ever seen, and whatever is original in me is the sum of all of those in my own personal way that I use them.
Let me
that
ask
was rather
you something.
Enigmatic answer. But
I know. I can see I'm not going to get it any clearer than that. Let me. Here you go. I wanted to ask you. Here, of course, you've been doing it, but have you ever actually danced together? I mean, in a production? It was in the movies, wasn't it?
In the movie of Damn Yankees, we did the mambo together.
Aha.
We've always wanted to, or I've always wanted to dance with him.
And that's what you're all changed for now,
yes,
isn't it?
And we'd like to do a fragment of it for you. But in that moment of poverty, We sold it. And so we're only allowed to do just a little bit of it.
You sold the,
You ready for
the
it?
middle, but you
The
got
middle,
a
yes.
great finish and a great end.
Well, I hope so. We'll try. Ready, Jay?
Yep.
Here we go.
Way over.
Okay.
Who's got the pain when they do the mambo? Who's got the pain when they go? Who's got the pain when they do the mambo? I don't know who. Do you? Who needs a pill when they do the mambo? Who needs a pill when they go? Who needs a pill when they do the mambo? I don't know who. Do you? Someone must be sick with their feet or stepping on everyone's feet. What if everyone's feeling okay? Why don't they just say ole when the music carries them away? Who's got the pain when they do the mambo? Who's got the pain when they go? Who's got the pain when they do the mambo? I don't know who. Do you? Is there a doctor in the house? Is there a doctor in the house? If there's a doctor in the house, point him out, for there is an element of doubt as to who's got the pain when they do the mambo, who's got the pain when they go, who needs a pill when they do the mambo, who needs a pill when they go,
Now for the big finish. Ready?
So.
Come sit yourself down and rest a minute.
Do I
Do you
go
have
on
to
here?
do any special vocalese to get that lovely tone that you make there on that?
Oh, we said, you heard it. We didn't.
Oh, that must be something very special. You have to teach it to me. You two are very much like the Luntz in your dedication to your work. You are, because I know that they are, and you work very hard at it. It seems so lovely and loose and free, and I know it is fun. But you, for instance, Miss Verdon, must work very hard at staying in condition in all sorts of ways.
Well, yes, I study. When I'm very good, I take a lesson every day and a singing lesson. Sometimes I'm not that good, and I always regret it because then as soon as you go to dance again, you get such sore muscles. But I do enjoy it. It is a great deal of work and requires enormous discipline. But then when you can get up on a stage or here and have the fun of doing it, then you don't forget the pain of learning it.
It's
I mean, you do
been
forget
like
the
a-
pain of learning it. You do forget the pain.
This has been more like a rehearsal for us, you know. It's been a great deal of fun to do it.
Oh, it is so wonderful.
So I hope you forgive us our errors in those
Oh,
dances.
it is just wonderful. But you work out every day, huh?
Yes.
I know that you're speaking about the thing that makes it all worthwhile, the hard work and the self-denial. When you get up there and you're in shape to do it, it pays for everything.
Oh, it's
doesn't it?
great fun.
Mr. Fosse, when we have composers on here, we ask them to sit down, and they usually do, and then I wrote type of.
Yes.
Could you have
Yes, I
a
have.
medley coming up of?
I have a, and then I choreographed.
Could we prevail upon
Yes.
you?
Let's come over here. I don't know, do we have all of our props? This is kind of a history-making medley because, as Earl said, composers do it all the time, but choreographers very rarely do it, and this may be the first and last time. I would like to introduce Mr. Fred Werner. Hernandez. Thank you. So the first one is from Pajama Game. Richard Adler,
Jerry Ross.
Jerry
George
Ross,
Abbott directed.
George Abbott, and a song. Oh, thank goodness, I'm about to fall to pieces. Here we go. From Pajama Game.
I know a dark, secluded place, a place where no one knows your face. A glass of wine, a fast embrace. It's called Hernando's Hideaway. Ole.
And then from the same show, there was a dance that I did for Carol Haney, Buzz Miller, and Peter Gennaro, and 3 very elusive derby hats. And that went like this. I got steam heat, I got steam heat, I got steam heat, but I need your love to keep away the cold. I did it. I've always been interested in sports, and especially baseball. I'm just nuts about it, really. And so when Damn Yankees came along, which is also an Adler Ross Abbott show, it gave me a chance to do a baseball ballet. That is when Gwen was off the stage. And that was a little bit like this. Who came along in a puff of smoke? Shoeless Joe from Hannibal Low. Strong as the heart of a mighty old Shoeless Joe from Hannibal Low. And then from Bells Are Ringing, written by Julie Stein, Adolph Green, Betty Comden, I had the pleasure of doing a dance for Judy Holliday, and it went something like this.
1, 2, cha-cha-cha. 1, 2, cha-cha-cha. Muchacha, tell me, do you cha-cha? Me cha-cha, Senor CC cha-cha. Now cha-cha, you show me how cha-cha. Oh, such a cha-cha, cha-cha.
And then in New Girl in Town, a song that was written, words and lyrics, by Mr. Bob Merrill. There was a scene in the barroom with a roller piano, and the song was Sunshine Girl, and Eddie Phillips did the dance. It was a little bit like this, ready?
He gave her kisses and a promise from moon, but now he's singing a different tune. With all her broken dreams, it's no surprise. The Sunshine Girl has raindrops in her eyes.
All the composers are going to hate me for this. From Redhead, written by Dorothy Fields, Albert Haig, David Shaw, conducted by Mr. J. Blackton, and was produced by Fryer and Carr. This Dorothy Fields song expressed Herbie Fitch's lament.
Oh, a bit of a twitch for a witch on that nip switch. But the hitch is the Ipswich witch, which ones I wed. If I should unhitch the witch which I'll wed and switch to the witch won't give me the twitch, the witch which I ditch will pitch a rock at me head. What a petunia!
And most recently, I've been very proud to be, and financially satisfied, I might add, to be associated with a show called How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. It was written by Frank Lesser and Abe Burrows. It's produced by Cy Fuhrer and Ernie Martin. And this show, which is this number rather, which is sort of the finale of the show, is sung by Bobby Morris and Rudy Valley and the entire company. And that one goes a little bit like this. There is a brotherhood of man.
Oh, I think we very definitely.
Oh, now we need to tell. Okay.
Thank you.
We just want to wrap up with your future plans. What's your next show?
First of all, let me apologize to all those composers.
You mentioned all their names. Don't be silly.
Did I get them all in?
You got them all in. Your next show is going to be?
Little Me, which is also produced by Cy Fuhrer and Ernie Martin, and is written by Carolyn Lee, Cy Coleman, and Neil Simon, and be starring Sid Caesar.
Well, as you can see, Mr. Fosse is not only a fine choreographer, but he can dance probably as well or better than anybody's ever staged. Wouldn't you say that?
I agree.
Maybe,
They
but
say
I
you can
agree.
pick them up and put them down, and I agree.
And Miss Verdon, what can we say about you but you're a dancing enchantress, isn't she?
Thank you. It
We
was
want to
lovely.
thank you so much for having joined us on the American Musical Theater. Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon.
Thank you.
Mr. Blackton, a little more merely marvelous, shall we? Come, join us.
The American Musical Theater is produced by WCBS TV in cooperation with the Board of Education of the City of New York. Today's program featured Jay Blackton and the CBS Orchestra, with guests Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon. And the host for the workshop, Earl Wrightson. The students participating on today's program are from the high schools of the City of New York. Whatever Lola Wants and Mambo Orchestrations, courtesy of Don Walker and Matilda Pincus. Pal Joey Orchestrations, courtesy of Tams Whitmark. Cakewalk and Merely Marvelous, courtesy of Philip Lang and Tom Brown. This has been a presentation of the WCBS TV Public Affairs Department.